Welcome to the call. My name is Dee Meyer. I am the Humanities Team University Coordinator and one of the co-hosts of the Living in Oneness 5 Pillars for Success Summit. I am excited about today's call with Rachael Jayne Groover. We're going to be learning about creating oneness in our relationships. I'll introduce Rachael Jayne to you in just a minute. First, I would like to say we are truly grateful to the 15,000 people that have registered for this summit. And thank you for joining us today on the phone, on webcast, and to those of you listening to the replays. Also, thank you to our guests who have purchased the Living in Oneness upgrade packages. This program supports the work of Humanities Team, and we are so grateful to your support. If you'd like to learn more, you can go to livingin1.com/upgrade/. We would love to have you share your comments and questions, aha moments during this call. You can post them on Rachael Jayne's page on the website at livingin1.com/speakers/Rachael-Jayne-Groover/. Or you could enter your comments into the question and answer section of the webcast. We love learning together, and this is an area where we can share in that moment of learning. Some people like to take notes in this section. Please feel free to do that. Write down the ideas that you want to remember right here, and other people that listen in later will have your moments to help lead them through this process. And today you are in for a real treat. I have the great pleasure of introducing a dear friend and colleague, Rachael Jayne Groover. She is truly insightful and gifted. Rachael Jayne Groover is the author of a #1 bestseller, Powerful and Feminine. Rachael Jayne is also a singer, inspirational speaker, and creator of the Art of Feminine Presence, which are spiritual growth trainings held worldwide. Welcome, Rachael Jayne.
Hello, Dee. Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Oh, it is so wonderful to have you with us. I always look forward to talking with you, whether on summits or in person. I'm just grateful to have your friendship. Rachael Jayne, I am wondering if you would mind leading us in a centering process.
I would love that. Because it's centering and grounding is a huge part of my work in oneness and presence. So let's go into one of the foundational practices, I think, of every spirituality, tradition, religion that has an understanding of body, mind, spirit connection, and that is coming into your center. For some, they call it Tien or Donjon or Hara, but it's the center of your body, your physical body and energetic body, about 2 or 3 inches below the navel and back inside your body. So as we start this call on oneness and presence and relationships, we're going to cover a lot of topics, I think. Just feeling your attention drop further down into your lower belly. And if you want to put your hands just gently resting on your lower belly and about 3 inches below the navel and back inside the body. And with every breath, just dropping more and more of your attention, your loving, present attention into your pelvis. And what I find in Tien is it's a little further down and back toward the spine than I might expect. But when I reach it, there's a bit of a relaxation, a little bit of a grounding, more present in the moment. Just keep breathing and feeling that drop of attention. I sometimes like picturing a visual there, a lotus flower or a globe of light, a light bulb or a crystal. Suspending there deep in your center. And our connection to Source definitely happens through the top of our head and through our heart and through our voice, but often we forget that source energy, that spirit energy, anchors into our center, into Hara. And if it's not anchored there, it's hard to manifest that source energy we're connected to on this physical plane. So let's set that intention as we go into our call today of bringing more and more of our conceptual understanding of oneness and our knowing of oneness and our talking of oneness into the depth of our body, into our being, and onto this planet, and make that the foundational intention to bring what I know into manifestation in my life and in all those around me. And with that, you can open your eyes if it feels good. I'll throw it back to you, Dee. But as we're talking, just stay there. Stay connected to that deep place in yourself, and just notice how the call goes when you can stay connected there.
Wow, that was really beautiful, and I did feel that opening, that shift, that just that beautiful energy spreading and connecting. And I think what is so remarkable is that that energy is timeless, and it connects us one to each other. And so this really creates a powerful circle around the world when you have 15,000 people taking part in this particular exercise. It is so exciting.
Yes.
So thank you.
You are so welcome.
Wow. So Rachael Jayne, would you share with us a little bit about why you are so passionate about your work?
Yeah, and it's been changing a lot too, and I think that happens for all of us. You know, the thing that brings us into our work at one time is then different. What really started this work around presence and the feminine energy and the masculine energy in presence came from this, you know, ongoing struggle of where are all the good men and where are they? They're not around me, and what's happening? And so it really started from that pain of you know, being a hopeless romantic and never really being able to find a man who could meet me, really, in that. And so I started to get very passionate about feminine energy because I was very disconnected to it, for one, and that was a huge aha in my life around why I might have been creating the relationship dynamics that I've been creating. And as I went into understanding more about the feminine energy, obviously the men I started attracting were a higher caliber of man. I, you know, finally met and married the man of my dreams, Dee Groover, who you know, and so everything was going along really well in that and the change. But what was most fascinating to me is that the more as a woman I was connecting to the feminine energy in my physical and energetic body, the more present I was becoming, the more relaxed, the more in the moment, the more happier I was becoming, and that it had a direct tie to my spiritual development, which I wasn't really thinking of, you know, way back. It's like, well, that's feminine and masculine, and how does that relate? And so I definitely felt a real, you know, surge forward in my presence. People were seeing me and hearing me in a different way. I felt like I was noticed in a bigger way. Working with my feminine, my magnetism was increasing, and that obviously helped, you know, my business. And so the feminine started becoming this passion around presence, which has driven me right up to this day around presence internally. You know, how present can you be with yourself, which we're going to talk about. But most of the people I have been working with over the last 5 years are very good with being present with themselves. You know, they've been on a spiritual path for a long time, but as they wanted to manifest that purpose or that message out into the world, they were finding they didn't have the outer magnetism, the outer presence that matched all this inner presence that was going on. Do you know what I mean? I
do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I started getting very passionate about helping people who've been on the spiritual growth path for a long time, who have that inner presence, of how to match that on the outer. So when they go out, whether it's their business or their career or dating or just wanting to be seen and heard in a bigger way, they could have that outer presence. And so I was able to bring a lot of my, performer background and singer background, as well as the spiritual development that it needs to have. You need to have if you are going to put yourself out there. Because I personally have always had a very strong push-pull dynamic between really wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard, and then terrified of being seen and heard, and then wanting to be seen and not wanting to be seen. I don't know if you can relate to that, Dee, or anybody can, but it's
I think so.
Yeah, so it's, my passion really is helping people with that. They do want to be seen, wanting to make a difference, but they're feeling like this, it's not safe. Yeah.
I definitely can relate. I've got another kind of tie-in question, because we use the word oneness, and I think that relates to the word that you use as presence. And so can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah. I think it's similar. I mean, oneness to me is really feeling my own core and how I'm connected to everything. That's how I think of oneness. I have my own. I am an individual, but the more individual I become, the more connected to everything and the oneness of everything. And, it's feeling both and then realizing the polarity doesn't exist, in that as well.
Absolutely.
So that's, how I feel with the oneness. And the presence is similar because it's how present are you first with yourself. And as you become more and more internally present, there is a pop through of, wow, I am present with everything, and that's the oneness.
And there's also a tie-in with authenticity, right?
Definitely. I think the journey into relationship with yourself and into relationship with presence with yourself, it asks a lot. It doesn't just ask to meditate once a day, or it doesn't ask to meditate once a day and talk about oneness. It asks deep questioning about your defense mechanisms and deep questioning about your mental and emotional habits that are running the show, and deep self-compassion for all of that. And, so it's once you do that work and your psychological work as well as spirituality work, there's a lot more authenticity that arises. And that's the integrated self, which we need to be really mindful of, don't we? When we're in a spiritual path, it's easy to get carried away with spirituality and source and upper chakras, and much more difficult, at least in my life, to be into, what's really going on psychologically and defensiveness and what's going on in my lower chakras that can then connect all of it and be a very integrated present human being, because it's the integration that creates a sustained feeling of oneness. It's, we can talk about oneness, as but it's that sustained feeling of it, and that comes from much more than just meditation.
Yeah, it takes the questioning where you have to be willing to look at your life circumstances and know that what you've done to create it, because you have created it. So it really asks of you to look at life a little differently from another perspective rather than being the victim.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So, Rachael Jayne, how does the energy of oneness impact the way we interrelate as couples?
Yeah. Sometimes, and sometimes it's challenging, It's because I think that energy of oneness and connection and like merging with all, we have to really watch that in relationship, because you've got two individuals that are separate, right, in polarity terms, and you've got two individuals that are not separate. They are one. And relationship is, I think, one of the number one ways that you can have all of your stuff come up. I personally think having your own business, now I've had my own business for a while, that's like the number one thing that brings up all your stuff. But, being in a personal, intimate relationship as a couple, that has just got so much ability for growth there, because there's more things that come up, as you feel safer to share all of the parts of yourself with somebody versus be in trying to mask that while you're in the romantic part of the relationship. So I think that dance is really important to work with the energy of that. That I love the analogy, if this makes sense, of a relationship in couple being like two telephone poles, and you've got two separate poles, but the wire that is connecting the two people is the oneness energy. It's the relationship. It's the more than one person separate. And so when you have two telephone poles that are really strong, grounded, earthed, deep into the ground, know their own center, that wire that's the oneness is strong. It's connected. But when one of those telephone poles is not grounded in their own center, it starts to lean over towards the other, and then the other one leans over towards it. The oneness energy goes slack. And so it's really important to understand that polarity in relationship is important to work with, that actually creates the oneness, at least in my experience. So with me and my husband, Dada, we're always working on our separateness of individuals and grounding in what we love, what we, desire, our own beliefs, staying true to our own self. And we're lucky we have a very compatible relationship, so we often, agree with each other. But even if we don't, can we stay in our own center? And if we can, that oneness connection grows. It's probably a little bit like that in, interfaith dialogues. Like, it's not about pulling off what you believe, but really feeling that strength of you and allowing everyone else to be strong in their center. And that's what creates those interfaith dialogues that actually get somewhere. It's, the strength in the individual and the community, and having that connection of oneness be really, really strong. Does that make sense, or is that, any questions about that?
It definitely makes sense. Let me see, do we have questions coming in? I think not. I've got a question, because for me that just brought up, in my mind, all couples have problems over the years, challenges. Yes. What has been your biggest challenge that you and Dada have faced, and how did you bring this idea of oneness in to resolve the challenges?
Yeah. Well, I think there's two big challenges, I think, and I believe everyone's got these, but for us, it appeared like one is around defensiveness. When we're in a couple situation and I feel triggered by him, or he feels triggered by me, we're going to go into a defense position. It's very, very difficult when someone's triggering you to be all home in your center and not triggered, right? So when that moment happened, and we would go into our defense mechanism to stay safe, to try and stay loved, to be right, whatever it was, we didn't understand each other's defense mechanism. So not only were we triggering each other, we were now triggering each other because your defense mechanism is wrong. And then it's like, it's downward spiral really, really quickly after that. And, I know everyone knows what I mean by that. So that was one thing. And the other thing that we had challenges with was around conflict and how we were going to decide to deal with conflict, because we both had an extremely different version of how you should deal with conflict. So with these two things, we've been able to work with the energy of oneness to not be so much in that position anymore. I mean, of course, we trigger each other still, and it's an ongoing evolution, and we still have conflict. But the things that really happen around oneness that support it is understanding that the trigger and the defense mechanism is that somebody's not feeling safe. and that the defense mechanism is okay. But we need to not be in our own little worlds, but be in the world of oneness and understand and have compassion for other people, not just our own self. So that led me on the journey, and Dada on the journey, of understanding each other's defense patterns and having a lot of compassion for that. And so when he gets triggered with something that I've said, something that's critical or whatever it is, and he goes into that, I am much more able to get out of my own individual separate self and feel the compassion for the defense that's coming up versus buy into it. And him for me. So I would recommend, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I so understand that. You know, having faced the challenges of losing our home and everything we owned and not having flood insurance while we had insurance, it didn't cover the flood. So absolutely get the fear piece and having to develop this ability to communicate in a very compassionate way and being able to state your fears and but to say them in a way that doesn't trigger someone else's fears, because that becomes, you know, just absolutely overblown if everybody in the household is triggered and fearful.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. So, you know, this is a high level of spirituality and psychology that's needed in order to get out of it. And so I recommend, you know, everybody have multiple tools that you can use and that you can learn and understand, so you can have that conversation with your partner or those people really close to you about what are their defense mechanisms, and to do it when the trigger is not there.
Exactly.
If one trigger's there, it's like, well, you're defensive and we need to talk about this and what, you know, it's like not fun. But, you know, when you're in a place to sit down and have that, and also to sit down and have the conversation around conflict and being more willing to understand how somebody else likes to deal with conflict more than just yourself. Because once we figured out that it was just our difference of opinions on how we want to deal with conflict, for example, for me, my belief system, which I thought everyone should have, was when we're in conflict, I need space in order to be able to get back home into my center before I can continue to work with it. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep being triggered, right? So that was always my thought, like, I need to ask for, you know, time away, move away, don't keep engaging in it because I'm triggered and he's triggered, and pull away until I could feel like I've got myself back and I'm in a place that I really want to speak from. Where Dada, his belief system was like, the best thing to do with it is deal with it in the moment. Anything that's put under the carpet or, you know, just swept under there, even if it's only for like, you know, 6 hours or a day, that plays into the relationship dynamic. And I want a relationship dynamic that is dealing with things quickly and effectively so we don't build resentment. Now, both are right? There's no, wrong about it, but it was like such a struggle for the first year of our relationship until we realized, oh, I can understand his opinion about it just as much as my own, which I think is all about oneness. It's not just about me, and I am the center of my universe, and this is how it is, which I was in, you know.
And that's where that generosity of spirit and being able to look at another perspective. But I think that's just the maturity in relationship, you know, where you do understand and you're able to accept more easily.
Yeah.
We have questions coming in. Janice from New Jersey says, oh my gosh, I know exactly that feeling of wanting to be seen and not wanting to be seen. And what I don't understand is why the feelings show up when they do. Like often when I'm with my husband and wanting to be seen, it seems like I'm not being seen. And on the other hand, there are times when I don't want to be seen, and that's when my husband sees me. How can I work on synchronizing the unseen and the seen me? What a great question.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a really big question, and it's what all my work is about. And, my training's often 3 days long, 6 days long, because we're trying to redevelop a lifelong pattern. But the thing that I always come back to around this is around your centeredness and around your energy and what it's doing in every moment of the day. So when I'm home, and what I call home is being in Tien, in my power center, resting back in my center, which connects me to source and earth more than anything. And when I'm there and I'm connected to my energetic self, not just my, human body, but my energetic, bigger than me self, I can't walk anywhere and not be seen, because people pick something up when they see a centered, loving, energetically alive person, right? And those two things are my practice all the time. If I get up on stage and I speak to hundreds of people at a time sometimes, or I'm on a video, or I'm on a date with my husband, those are the two things that I'm really feeling into is, am I home, or am I in my head, or am I trying to get him to listen to me, or am I I'm sort of like out of my own body and sort of into his, because I really want you to see me? Or am I there, or am I really home? And when I'm home, all I need to do is walk into that office of his and look at him. And if I'm home, he stops everything he's doing and goes, hey. But if I'm not, it goes haywire. And that's happening with a lot of women trying to get seen by their man. And it's not because they're trying too hard. So on the flip side, what can happen is when they're not trying too hard and they're just relaxed in themselves and they just want a little bit more internal time, they're home. And they're going to that place that's extremely attractive. Or it's people want to respect that because, again, they don't feel the relaxation of someone being deep in their core. And so that can bring the attraction in. And in those moments, it doesn't mean don't do it because it feels good to you. But in those moments, you want to stay clear in your language, in your no, or your yes, or I need space with your partner, to know that you just need some space today and, whatever it is that you need, versus going, oh, now he's giving me attention and I don't want it and now I've jumped out of my center again. And this is an ongoing battle we have every single moment of the day. Am I home? Am I not? It's another way of going, am I present? Am I not? And when you're present, you're going to be seen. And when you're not that present, it's very hard to be seen, and a lot of resentment can build from that.
I have another question for you. Life has added challenges for many of our listeners who have built businesses with their partners, and they live and work together 24 hours a day. Can you share some basic tools for couples that work and live together?
Yes, yeah. Well, we are definitely in each other's pockets 24 hours, 7 a day. Dada and I have worked together now for, going on 8 years. We pretty much started working together as soon as we started dating, and it's been quite the ride. And we do it really well, actually. We have a great working relationship, but it's important to know you need your separate alone time. We do have our separate offices. We do have our doors closed a lot of the time, and we need to set agreements about how we work together. And I think it's coming back to the telephone poles. And agreements are really important in any group dynamic situation, any relationship situation. Often problems arise when you don't have agreements. So what is the agreement that we've made? Well, one of them is, and this is over the years, but one of them is I don't go into his office before 9 o'clock because he's writing his book. And I know that. Or if the door's shut, I don't go in. There's not like this merging of, oh, well, he should do this, or I should be at his beck and call. We've got, definite agreements placed so we can do a nice, day. We make sure that we have time to talk about things so they aren't swept under the carpet. We do have date nights every week still, and they're on our calendar, and our whole team sees them. So they can't, schedule anything around that. So there's really simple things that we've put in place to set ourselves up to win. And then whenever there's a big conflict, it really goes back to how I would deal with it if we weren't working together. Am I home? Am I staying centered when I want to really share something that's important to me? When I'm not, we go into agreements to how we deal with conflict. So, yeah, if you're working together, I would sit down this week and go, let's just revisit how we want to do this life together, how we want to do our work day together. Is there anything else that I can do for you to make your work day much more enjoyable? And, do you want to ask that of me? And we're doing that on a regular basis. He's actually brilliant at this, way better at me. He stops me. In our company, we have, now like 10 people working for us. So it's, we're not just working for ourselves, but there's a stressful, energy when you've got that amount of people working for you in the transformational industry. I know, Humanity's Team is a big organization, and it brings that. But we, I'm CEO and sort of leader of the team, but he's our chief happiness officer. And his job is really to come to me on an ongoing occasion, like, what else do we need to put in place to make your work day more enjoyable? And then that triggers me to go back to him and go, what else can we do for you? And what can we do for the team? The happiness of our team, the happiness of our clients are very high on our, intention. And happiness to me, and joy is just another word for connecting with oneness with our team. It's not just about us and profit and getting what we want. It's building a community and building relationships with our team and our community that they have never experienced anywhere else. And that supports our profit, obviously, because we've built that. Yeah. Wow. But it's not easy. It's not easy.
I love that you're asking each other what you can do to make your day happier and for your company. That's huge. To put that as a priority is huge. Keeping it present.
Yeah.
We have more questions coming in. I have James from Charleston. I'm trying to learn some things about my 30-year marriage. My wife and I have fallen into the pattern of being not seen by each other most of the time. Our youngest child is about to leave the nest, and I'm wondering how we can restart our marital engine. What a great question.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, the good news is it's easy. It really is easy to start that engine. I think, hopefully, I'm sort of reading into the question as you both are on the same page with it and you've already talked about it. But if you're not, that's the first thing, is to make sure you verbally talk to each other that you want this. Not that it's something that you, James, are wanting and you haven't really shared it with her. And one way to make a woman happy, ecstatically happy, is to say, look deeply into her eyes and say, I want to see you more, honey. I want to see you and meet you more in a deeper place. That will have her weak at the knees and so in love, right? Mm-hmm. And see if it's her intention too. But if the intention is there, to set some time aside where you are doing that, your main intention is to do that. And if you set a date night, that doesn't mean you're going to intend to see each other. So I'm asking for that intention to see each other. And I did this exercise just a little while back with couples, and actually it was women in the room, but there was a couple of couples there. And I got everyone, you could do this with her, is just sit in a chair opposite each other. And I had one couple, if they were just both women, to receive attention and the other to give attention. And this couple I was noticing in the front row, they were like an older couple, probably in their early 70s, I would say, and they were married. They'd been married for a long time. And I said for him, because he was in the masculine role first, to give attention, undivided attention to this woman for 1 minute. That's it. And not to get distracted by anything. And the chime went, and it was a minute. And I watched this man give 100% of his eye contact, loving presence to her for 1 minute. And the energy of her, she just grew and started the joy level in her body was like, oh my God. She started getting a little bit teary. It was so moving. Just from 1 minute of 100% attention, not saying anything. And then she gave it back. And afterwards I said, how was that experience? And he said, I have never given that much attention to her since the day we got married, when I was looking into her eyes, saying our vows. And it takes that intention to give that much attention. So I would play with that. If she's up for, ways to just do that, that can spark off, get that engine going quicker than anything else. So make the time, have the date nights, but more importantly, intention to see each other, and magic will happen from that intention.
So I have a question for you, Rachael Jayne. What does a date night look like for you and Dada?
We love this restaurant downtown in Fort Collins where we live called Tasty Harmony. So we often go there, and it's just a way to get out of the house and talk. And we do not talk about business. That is our agreement. We do not talk about anything of that. I mean, we can go there and have it be a team night. We can talk about business, but we have our date night. Or we love movies. Mm-hmm. We obviously love making love to each other, and but it's usually simple. We love simple because we like connecting with each other versus putting more things we need to do. And so I would watch that for people with date nights. Don't do a date night to make yourself feel better that you're doing a date night, and do stuff that doesn't connect the two of you. Do things that are going to connect the two of you. Shut down the computer. And I tell you, Dada is so much better at this than me. The other night we had our final night together before my family flew in from Australia. They're here for the last, the next couple of weeks. And he said, this is our final night together. And he said, just so you know, once we start this, you are not going back to the computer. The phones are getting turned off. And it's just like, thank you so much, because I get into the habit of like, okay, well, I'll just check my email. I've got 5 minutes while he's cooking dinner or whatever, and we just hung out and talked about, what we're wanting and, intentions of the family, and just cuddled and had a glass of wine and really just connected like that. So connection more than doing.
Nice. Would you share with us some steps that we can take to create a positive impact on our relationships right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think talking, having that open communication like we've been doing is really important to work out what you want to have more compassion with in your relationship, because everyone's struggling in some way, whether it's, there's a touch point that always gets you a bit snagged up with each other, or the fire's gone out. Like, really look at what that intention is to talk about that. And that's scary, I mean, I still have moments where I have this desire arise in myself, and it's my husband and daughter. I mean, anyone knows him, he's like adorable, and he's not scary, but I feel sometimes scared of sharing what I really, really want, and I've got to go past that fear that is at our foundational call of I won't be loved, or I'll be rejected, or I'll be something, to go past that, to have fun and to not take relationships so seriously, and to really put it as a priority. Yeah.
I think that's really what's key, is making relationship a priority, because it is that vehicle that can bring so much joy and connection, and just that opportunity to love and be loved. So can you tell us what the feminine and masculine energies go to do with creating a conscious relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, we have oneness. We have, we are all one, we're connected. And our relationship with our intimate partner is one of the most primary ways to feel that polarity, right? That we are human and we have polarity, and the feminine and the masculine are polarity. And in our oneness, journey, if you will, we're learning to love the polarity. We're learning to love the love and love the fear and love our impatient and love our patient and love other people, even if they piss us off sometimes, and love the people that are easy. We're attempting to integrate into loving all of it. And so when we go into intimate relationship, there is usually the pole of the feminine energy and the masculine energy. And so this gives us this brilliant, very quick experience of loving the opposite. And this doesn't have to be just in heterosexual relationships. In homosexual relationships, there's usually one person embodying more of the masculine polarity than the feminine polarity. So it's definitely not man-woman, but the difference of energies. And the feminine and masculine, to me, just so everyone's clear on my take of it, is it's not yin and yang energies. Yin and yang energies are energies of life. Yin may be the dark and winter time, and yang being more the light and summertime, and the yin being more, introverted and maybe emotional and watery, and the yang being more outward and directed and focused and fiery. So those are all aspects of life, right, that we have in us. But me as a woman, my primary sexual energy is feminine. So it's really the feminine energy is working with my sexuality and my sensuality and my humanness as a woman. And for most women, it's the same. Not for every woman. I find that there's probably 5% of women that actually their primary energy they love to live in is masculine. But most women, when I drop them into their feminine energy in my workshops, their smile goes on their face like it has never done before. They're so much more present. When I put them in masculine energy, they feel tense. They feel, I don't want to be in that all the time. And when I put men for the whole in the masculine, they feel more present. They feel more joyful. They feel more energy going up. So we're not talking about aspects of life polarity. We're talking about your sexual energy. And so when we get into a relationship, we've got that polarity happening, and we've got an amazing opportunity to love the opposite. And for women, which has been mostly my clients up until this point, I work with men and women now, but it was women having to really work with getting through their judgments around the masculine and their judgments around men. I often hear, men are just this and that, and they're competitive, and they're arrogant, and they're this, and that's not good. But that's just a different aspect of life that we get to love. Competitive's great, and collaboration's great. But when we get too into one side of the polarity, then we go, collaboration is how it needs to be all the time. All the time. And that's not true. It's both and. We know that when we see the joy of Olympians, or the joy of, someone playing with somebody, and the competitiveness of wanting to be the best they can possibly be. Obviously we know why collaboration's awesome, but that tends to be easier to see. So in relationships, we've always got that opportunity to love the polarity and love the opposite. And we need to keep being very aware of which polarity we think is good, because we're spiritual beings, and which polarity is not good, because that can get us into trouble. And that creates the spiritual bypass, no, that's bad, and this is good. And the other thing, too, in the feminine and the masculine energies is it creates the sexual polarity. It creates the dance of attraction. So for all the questions that have come up around how to start the engine on or whatever, if you've got a woman in your life or a man in your life that does love to be in the masculine or in the feminine, or if you're in a homosexual relationship who likes playing which part, allow them and inspire them to be more in that, and that's going to create more attraction between the two of you, because more polarity, more attraction, in the magnet, analogy. If you've got two opposite poles of the magnets pulling together, it pulls it together, it attracts. When you've got a very feminine woman and a very feminine man, it doesn't attract so much. It becomes more neutral and neutralized or neutered, and we want to do that consciously, because our sexual dance is not everything, but in intimate relationship, it's a big part of creating that oneness. And we want to keep that attraction happening. Most people in America, in the countries we've gone to, we've traveled, to Australia and, many parts of Europe and the UK, that a lot of men and women are very neutral. They're not in their sexual essence when they've done a lot of spiritual work. They might, if they're still playing, first level awareness, they might be all masculine and all feminine, but once they get into their spiritual awareness, I see a lot of people lose that and they go neutral, and it really does affect relationships, not in a good way. It turns the fire off and the passion off, and so we need to be working both upper chakras and lower chakras. Yeah.
Do you have a quick, easy, experiential method for centering and shifting to get us back into that energy of masculine and feminine and creating the dance?
I sure do, yeah. We have this exercise we do called the 3 activation points of the feminine and the 3 activation points of the masculine. I can just, if you want to quickly go through it for those that feel like, I want to be more in my feminine, I want to be more in my flow, in my relaxation, in my sensuality, in my radiance. If you feel like that, let's just take you through this, and then I'll take the men through it. So I want you to, the first activation point is to drop your attention back into your pelvis. And I want you to feel your whole pelvic bowl and all your sexual organs. And just putting attention there allows you to drop back into your sexuality, which starts the feminine dance. And you're not doing anything, you're just feeling that. And for some of you, you might not be feeling a lot, and that's fine, but just keep going with me of placing attention more and more in your pelvis. Second activation point of the feminine is just to do a few little hip circles, slow, sensual hip circles as you're sitting in your chair there. And I don't want you to leave your pelvis, but I want to see how much you can enjoy a few little figure 8s or hip circles, feeling the sensations in your hips more than you have in the last few days. And the third activation point of the feminine is the way that the feminine penetrates the world, and it's through her heart. So I want you to imagine that you've got this point of light coming from your heart. Don't leave your hips, they're still swirling around. So I want you to imagine there's a point of light coming from the back of your heart through your chest and beaming out, covering a person that you love, sending it to a person that you really love, and feeling your heart energy shining onto the world. And just notice how that feels when you feel grounded in your sexuality. You're connected to your hips, because the feminine energy loves working through the hips and down the legs. So we'll talk about the masculine in a moment, but that's that. And then the way that it likes penetrating another person or the world is through the heart. Dee, what do you feel when you're in that?
I feel very grounded. I feel just like brilliant, actually. I feel really sparkly.
Oh, I love that. Yes, sparkly for sure. So, some other people, when I'm in the room, they're doing it, they feel more sensual, they feel more relaxed, more present. Sometimes they tear up a little bit because it's when they've got someone in front of them that they're beaming that love onto. It's like very moving. So all you women out there, stay in that. Just stay in that for a moment. And with the men, I'm going to take you through just quick 3 activation points for the masculine. First is to come into your Tien, come into your center, and that's about 2 or 3 inches below the navel, and I want you to just ground back into that place that we were in right at the beginning of the call. Where is my center? Where is my grounding? And then I want you to stand up if you can, put me on speakerphone or something else, and I want you to become completely symmetrical. I want your feet lined up, your legs lined up, your hips lined up, your head lined up, looking straight ahead, everything symmetrical. That you're home, you're grounded in your pelvis. And in the third activation point, when you're looking straight ahead, I want you to feel the protection energy through your shoulders and your arms. And I want you to feel your upper chest, your energy just really lifting up through your chest and your arms and setting the intention, I am here to protect the people closest to me. It is my job to protect those that I love and to protect this world with love. So standing up, very attention forward, symmetrical, you are here to protect. And if any man has any comments around just what that's feeling, usually in the room, if women are there watching, there's like, oh my God. That's the first, it's like, wow, the presence and the safety that women feel around that is palpable immediately. The man often says it feels good. I feel like I'm here for a purpose. I feel like I'm called to something, which makes masculine men feel much better. But anyone can share. So, those are the 3 things you can do with your woman, with your man tonight, walking down the street, going shopping. Just try that out with those 3 activation points and see what changes in your relationships.
Wow, that is wonderful. It really makes me feel strong in who I am and confident.
Yeah.
So thank you, Rachael Jayne, for sharing that. Do you have anything that you would like to share, any current programs or bonus material?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have quite a lot of free videos around presence and relationships and everything that we've talked about. So there's a couple of links. If you're a guy, RachelJayne.com is the best place to go to get my free weekly tips on presence, practical spirituality. Rachel spelled RACHAELJAYNE, got weird spelling in both names. But if you're a woman and you're really attracted to this work, you can go to feminineспiritualityandleadership.com. So it will really work with the feminine around your spiritual development and your relationship development, and there's free video series there. And just so everyone knows, we are all over the world, actually. We travel quite a bit for our work. We live in Fort Collins, just near Steve and Dee and Nanette and everyone here in northern Colorado, but we are off to Europe in a few weeks. We do Australia every year. We're going to Japan for the first time this year. We're doing Canada in October. So we are all over the place doing Art of Feminine Presence events and events that have really 2 main focuses. One is your spiritual development, and 2 is your ability to courageously express yourself in this world. And so if you do feel like you've got that push-pull dynamic a little bit going on, you do have a business that you want to really make a huge impact. We have, struggled through a lot of mistakes and a lot of things, and now we are very proud that we created a 7-figure-a-year business teaching spirituality and presence and communication. So if any of you want to learn a little more how we've done that, we're all over the place. So RachelJayne.com, you can sign up there, or go to artoffemininepresence.com, and you'll see our calendar of events all over the place. Artoffemininepresence.com, and just reach out anytime to us, and you'll have our details there on the web pages, and call us, email us. I'd love to just chat and see how we can support you further.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Rachael Jayne, for being with us. This hour just went by so fast, and it was just a treat. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Great questions. Loved this.
Me too. So I'll look forward to chatting with you soon and following you. And I highly encourage everyone to take the opportunity to view Rachael Jayne's videos or take her programs. I've gone through a couple, so highly encourage it. It's just amazing. So thank you, Rachael Jayne, and I'm going to tell everyone about our upcoming events. Saturday morning, we have James O'Day at 8:30 Pacific time, and that is Los Angeles, California time. Ed Mills at 10 o'clock Pacific time. Nina Meyerhoff at 11 o'clock Pacific time. And I'd also like to thank all of our guests who have joined us today and who have registered for the program, the 15,000 people. Thank you so much. And thank you to our guests who have purchased the Living in Oneness Upgrade Package. This really supports the work of Humanities Team, and we are grateful. If you would like to learn more about it, you can go to livinginone.com/upgrade/. Also, my thanks goes out to the volunteers working on the Living in Oneness Summit: Steve Farrell, John Thomas, Nanette Kennedy, Carrie Beach, Todd Kramer, Melissa Puri, Julian Cole, Jewel Alexander, Eleanor Healy, and Debbie Satovsky. Thank you so very much. And thank you to the audience. We couldn't do any of this without you, so it's just been a pleasure to be with you today, and I'll look forward to joining you tomorrow. Goodbye.